Normally I would start on time, but the lawyer forgot his lawyering stuff. He'll be right back. 1800 is when we start, isn't it?
Every day. Where we have just that shot.
The City of Riverbank, regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board meetings are now in session. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. It is 6:01 p.m. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Reverend?
Fred Wood, pastor of the Riverbank Holiness Church, resident of the town, and a school teacher here in the town. Let's bow our heads for a short word of prayer. Father, we thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day. Thank you for this city council, and we're praying tonight again that you would give them wisdom to guide our city, direct their steps when they're voting. We're thankful, Lord, for the sheriff officers here tonight. We're praying, God, that you would be with them also. And you see our nation right now is in a divided place, in a divided state. And we're praying, God, that the peace of God would rule in our nation. You know about this coronavirus. We're praying, God, that you would give our leaders wisdom and protect this town specifically. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Council Authority Member District 2, Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 3, Cal Campbell.
Here?
Council Authority Member District 4, Darlene Barbara Martinez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Luis Uribe.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda tonight. Any council or authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled items to be considered is to declare their conflict. Seeing none, we're going to go right off the bat and recognize Chief Aaron Kiley. Chief, would you join me up there? And Sheriff, would you like to come on up too? I have to go standing in front of it. They didn't do it for. I know his habits. Okay, all right. All right, well, if you want to be that way, I'll tell you. As you guys know, I mentioned Chief Kiley is trying to be a little bit more human, bringing the more human factors to the to his policing. And you know, when he first started, it would be, "How high are you?" Now it's, "Hi, how are you?" Same words, a little different emphasis. He has true respect for the council, and I really do appreciate that, especially the time he left Leanne Jones-Cruz behind during the National Night Out. Yeah, that's the story today. But there's a lot of other things I could just mention, Chief, but we'll do others later. But Chief Kiley came here in the early 2000s as a in patrol, and he was total dedication to this community for a total of 12 years. Of that, 7 years was Chief. And we really 1 month. Okay, so you owe us 1 more month. Okay. Anyway, on behalf of the city of Riverbank, the city council, and the entire surrounding community, you have our deepest respect. And Aaron, good luck in the future. I know your list of things are growing, and this is in appreciation and recognition for your dedication to the community of Riverbank. And truly, you deserve much more than a little plaque and a pat on the back. But anyway, thank you. You get to speak. Oh, go ahead, you want to give him an opportunity?
All right. Well, we'll make Aaron only speak one time, since I know he loves it so. But Chief Kiley, obviously, he is going to retire here in a couple of days, and obviously has served the city of Riverbank, but he has also served the Sheriff's Department and the county for over 22 years. And Aaron, on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for your leadership as a deputy, a detective, a sergeant, a SWAT team member, and now as a chief. When I became the chief out in Patterson, Aaron was the guy that I always called for advice and, hey, how do you deal with crazy city councils or...
Careful.
I think I'm not going to get invited back, but or city attorneys or whatever the case may be. But I appreciate your leadership, your mentorship of me in that time, and your friendship. And I wish you and your family the best in your retirement. And I want to thank your family as well, because for 22 years they have shared you with us. So, Aaron, thank you.
Now we have to speak.
Yeah, I thought there'd be an obligation there. So, family was mentioned. I wanted to start off by mentioning my wife, Kara, who I've done my best to insulate from my career as best I could all these years. But, you know, she knew me back before I was a peace officer. So she got to enjoy all of the transitions and evolutions that come with working your way into this job and really learning how to balance things. So she experienced all that with tremendous grace and always showing support for me along the way. So I really can't adequately express what that means to me and the value of it. And to my daughters, thank you for making parenting a virtual pleasure and allowing me to, I know I missed a lot of things, particularly earlier in my career when this is dead technology, but when the pager ruled and I had to go at a moment's notice. And appreciate you for enduring all of that and understanding and making parenting pretty easy. So thank you, girls. So beyond that, I know city manager, the mayor who's suspiciously right behind me, and to the rest of the council, thank you very much for making my job so simple. So you really have struck a nearly perfect balance of accountability but support for police services, and that makes my job so much easier to do. Where, you know, you can call into question, you can raise issue, but all the while there's been great support. It's really no different than other successful relationships in life where you have that balance, and that's worth an awful lot. So you're all here for the right reasons. That's become very apparent to me in all the years I've been here. And it's great to see when you see public service for the purpose of public service. So you have my deepest respect and my sincere appreciation for all of that. Thank you.
That's okay. He said he's going to be brief no matter how long it takes him.
I would also just like to simply say, I know there's some city staff in this room. I wanted to say thank you, because working with you has been seamless. And I know whether it's a tree we need, you know, a vehicle versus tree accident where we have a tree down the roadway and we need it removed now. We have a critical incident where we need the street barricaded off, or we need barriers for cheese and wine, or we need planning for cheese and wine. all of these things that come up, or I could be locked out of Riverbank Police Services and need somebody that has some lock picking skills like Ron. So you've come to our rescue at Riverbank Police Services many times over, and I'm forever indebted to you for that. So thank you very much. And I guess lastly, to the community of Riverbank, policing a community has a lot of challenges, and there are always people, individuals in a community that need to be policed, but they are relatively few. So the city largely polices itself, which makes our job so much easier. And I think the best compliment that I can pay this town is the fact that after being here for 7 years, I often have to remind myself that I'm not a city employee. I'm a county employee, but that's how good the relationship's been, and it's been that way for the entire time that I've been here. So thank you for that. And now I'm done.
We need pictures. I don't know why.
I'm not. These plaques are like vacuum sealed to the top of the. There we go.
All right. Sheriff, you're on one side, I'm on the other, and then we embarrass them. That doesn't go well. I think that's the most I've ever heard him speak.
Look at the smiling.
And smiling, too. All right, item 1.2, an update on Stanislaus Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Dursky.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of the council. Thanks for having me up here. My comment about crazy council members was not directed towards Riverbank. No, but just I want to take a few minutes to give you kind of an update on the Sheriff's Department. Obviously, with Chief Kiley leaving, that is a leadership turnover. But this particular week, we have a lot of turnover in our leadership under Sheriff Ralph Clemente, who's right there, and Captain Keith Rockensaw both retire on Friday as well. So this is the week where a lot of our senior leadership changes over. And we've had some other retirements in the last few months, and another one coming up here in the next few months. So we are in the midst of a leadership changeover. And while we lose a lot of valuable experience, it's also an opportunity for a lot of our young up-and-comers to take the next step. And we're excited about that. There should be a relatively smooth transition. We've had a plan for this really from day one. And so we are excited about that. Mickey LaBarbera, if you don't know him, will be the next under sheriff. And then Anthony Bajarin, who is formerly the Waterford chief, is going to replace Captain Rockensaw as our administrative captain. So we're excited about that. And with that, staffing has always been one of our challenges. Historically, really since the recession, restoring staffing has been the single biggest problem that we have faced. About a year and a half ago at this point, we rolled out a plan called Deputy Sheriff 2. The board approved it, and it went into effect January of 19, and that created a new classification. With that classification came 10% more money, and I know Sean is over there nodding his head that, I know that had an impact on your budget. But what it did is it dramatically improved our retention landscape. At the time before that was rolled out, and we normally sat at about 160, maybe 165 out of 180 authorized funded positions, so that shortage there of 15 to 20 deputies, that really impacted what we could do for the community. Now, as of, today's Tuesday, so yesterday, we're at 181. And we're actually authorized 188 now. The Board of Supervisors approved 8 additional positions. If they didn't, I wouldn't have had a home for everybody that was in the academy at the time. So we're in a much better position through staffing to serve the community better. And I know that Riverbank added 1 staff up here, 1 deputy, and I think that there are hopes for more. While I tell you that our staffing is good, I do still remind you that it's kind of like ordering a Tesla. If anyone here has the fortune of doing that, there's still a period of time from when you order it until that deputy shows up on scene. So plan for 9 to 12 months if you want to add staff. And we can't really build that staff member until it's approved. So I want to get that out there. With that, though, we have done a number of things. We've brought back our community resource unit, which doesn't really serve Riverbank specifically, but it does serve a lot of our outlying communities. Up here, probably the closest one would be Salida, a major community that does not have its own assigned police force. They are in one of our beats, and they get served through that. But the community deputies reach a lot of those communities: Salida Valley, Home, Empire, Wesley, all of that. And they focus on a lot of the quality of life problems that they have there: homelessness, marijuana grows, etc. And they are deputies that they kind of span that gap between a detective or a patrol deputy, but they have the time to solve those problems and to just focus on those. So we're excited to have that program back. We've already restored 3 school resource officers in conjunction with the County Office of Education that serve the county schools. And they do go into some of the city schools as well, but their primary focus is on the county schools. And I know that there's a desire here in Riverbank to bring a SRO on board. So we're excited to have that back. I will tell you 3 is not enough, but it's also a 300% improvement over where we were a year ago. So it's a step in the right direction. We also plan to add a lot of staffing on our custodial side. I'm very optimistic that in this pending budget that we have going to the Board of Supervisors here in a few months, they are going to add 32 custodial deputies to our staff. It'll take us probably 2 years to hire them, but what that will do for our community is allow us to open about 325 more jail beds. As you know, we have spent about $160 million over the last several years to build all new facilities, and a lot of that money came from the state. But we were not funded to operate all of those facilities. Obviously, that's a big hit to the county's general fund, but the county has agreed to put those into our budget. And so 2 years from now, we expect to have about 325 more beds that we can fill. And what that means is more criminals will spend more time in jail. And so that's a very good thing for protecting our community and keeping our community safe. So we're very excited about that. But like I said, it'll be a 2-year process again to hire, train, and build all of those deputies. And the final thing that I really want to talk about, and then I will take any of your questions, is we are developing what we are calling a fusion center. And that will not be its final term. Staff actually has the challenge of coming up with what it will finally be called. But the Fusion Center is going to focus on a number of different things, but one of their primary items is gun violence. As many of the folks across our county know, I'm a staunch advocate of the Second Amendment, CCWs, and so on. But I do think that it is vitally important that law enforcement take a look at a lot of these active shooter, critical incident type of situations that happen across our country. And what can we do to prevent those? I do not think in the state of California it's a function of law. All the appropriate laws are on our books. We don't need more tools that way. What we need to do is a better job of monitoring, tracking, and acting on some of these folks that are in our community, and they are in our community. There are a number of different groups that are already involved in kind of keeping their eyes out and evaluating some of the threats that we face. But what we're trying to do is establish a clearinghouse, kind of a single reference point where anyone that has concerns about that, they can feed the information there, they can do an evaluation, and then, if appropriate, we can act on it. Now, we are also very concerned about protecting people's First Amendment rights, thinking something, talking about it, or speaking your mind, whatever your opinion may be. Everyone has the right to do that. It's where that thought, that ideology is going to take the jump into some sort of illegal criminal action. That's the point where we would seek to get involved and take preemptive action. And gun violence will not be the only focus of that, but it will be the primary one. We're going to look at gang violence as well. We're going to look at some of our illegal drug activity. And one of the things that affects a lot of our community, thefts, burglaries. And there's a lot of statistical analysis that we can do that will show us when they occur, where they occur, and quite frankly, if you do the right work, we can probably narrow it down to about 5 suspects before the crime even has been committed. Because and Chief Kiley and I have had this conversation before. There is a very finite number of criminals in this town that, or any part of our county, and if we could put them in prison, crime would plummet. And so let's face it, we deal with a lot of the usual suspects. So we just have to do a better job of focusing on them. One of the challenges that I've had to staff, specifically our detective team, is to focus on the criminal, not on the crime. Because especially in general crimes, you can have a general crime, a property crime detective. He could come in on a Monday with a stack on his desk of 20, 30 reports that he is supposed to investigate. And we can spend an inordinate amount of time working on a case that we'll never be able to solve. On the flip side, there are a very small number of criminals out there committing most of those. So if we focus on identifying and removing those criminals and sending them to prison, we will do a lot more to impact our crime rate than just solving cases. So that is kind of where we're at. That is where we're going. I could talk about a whole slew of things, but I know you don't want to have an hour-long city council meeting, or at least you don't want to listen to me for that long. So I'm going to stop with that, and I am happy to answer any questions from the council or from any members of the audience.
Just a quick question. At your Fusion Center, are you guys going to be discussing how guns are brought in from other states since they don't have as strict laws as we do here in California?
Yeah, that is one thing out there. And on that note, we do see that a lot of straw purchases out of state. One of the big things right now is that a lot of our illegal marijuana robberies or thefts, they steal the marijuana, it goes out of state, and they trade it or sell it and then buy guns and bring them back into state. So that is one thing that we are working on. And another challenge is these 80% ghost guns. The law, that is an area where the law actually has not yet kept up with the technology. And so a lot of the guns, especially the assault weapons that we do find now, they're these 80%ers. If anyone is not familiar with that, it is it's a gun, but it's not a complete gun, specifically the lower receiver. You can buy it off of the internet. Because it's not a gun, there are no controls over it. But then anyone with a milling machine or a lathe or the appropriate technology or knowledge that I certainly don't have, they can finish it and turn it into an operational firearm. And so that is an area where we have seen a sharp uptick in activity.
And just the other question, your Truth Act forum, are you guys still holding that in Riverbank?
Yep, we are. I don't know the date off the top of my head.
I think it's April 25th, I think.
April 25th?
I think so.
Okay. We have one here. There's a couple coming up in Ceres, which I know is not Riverbank. And then we're still working on one out in Patterson. So, yep, we are definitely doing that. And so please spread the word on that.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Just one comment. I've had the opportunity to dial 911 on many occasions where I go to San Joaquin County, even on a landline. How can we correct that? Because what they do is they get all the information, then they say, well, I have to now contact Stanislaus 911, and then they give you the same information all over, and then Stanislaus 911 asks you the same things. Mm-hmm. So, you're 3 minutes into the call when you could have been in 30 seconds and already had some response coming.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but John?
No, it was landline here in Riverbank. I went directly to San Joaquin County. Okay. But we have the exact date and time when it went to.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, we'll check that out.
No, you already missed your opportunity. I'm kidding.
Yes, sir.
You made me think of it. If I hear a comment from the public and I get around a lot. I'm sorry. If I get around a lot with the public, and the biggest complaint that I hear when I say that they have a problem, well, call our sheriff's department. They say, well, we call them, but we can't get through the communications or something. So I don't know what it's all about, but I would say if we can improve on our communications, it would make a lot of the public happy.
And it's specifically when they're calling in that they don't get through?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I also have heard that from our citizens. In fact, I talked with Sean about that. He's actually called over there to dispatch and talked to him. It's when they call the non-emergency number and it routes you, but the way that it routes you, it's the last thing to push 0 or something.
Okay.
And Sheriff, I could brief you on it separately,
Okay.
but I've talked to Wendy from Stanislaus Regional 911, and it's been an ongoing issue, but I'll shoot you an email so
Okay.
you kind of know about it.
And on that general topic of SR 911, there are a lot of technical improvements coming. It might take a year or two through funding, and well, it's tech. It can take a while, but there are some things that they're working on to generally improve that. It escapes me. The text to 911. There's a advanced 911, something like that. That will.
System that has to go into effect by January that allows texting through the 911 system.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with some technical improvements. And some of the concerns as well, also someone more contributed to some staffing issues that SR 911 has when they don't have somebody to staff the non-911 line. They had to use a primary dispatcher or a 911 dispatcher to take those, and so there was kind of coagulated a little bit. There was a delay. But the last report we got, and I believe the city manager's aware of this too, is dispatchers are almost up to full staff.
Okay.
So some of the benefits that we're starting to see, with getting more staffing, that we should start seeing from SR 911.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sheriff, thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to come back at any time.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Item 1.3, California Department of Transportation District 10 update. Presentation by Mr. Dan McElhaney.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dan McElhaney. I'm your Caltrans District 10 Director, and it's an honor to be here. The mayor and I serve together on Stanislaus COG, which is part of the Central Valley Transportation MPOs, along with San Joaquin County and Merced County. Caltrans District 10, we have over 900 Caltrans employees serving 8 counties, as far north as Alpine County and Markleeville to Mariposa County and Yosemite, the gates to Yosemite, and of course in the valley, as I mentioned. So they serve with great public service pride, and it's an honor to be here on the day that the chief is retiring to appreciate that public service. And many of those 900 employees, more than a third of them are maintenance employees serving the highways nearly 24/7, on call and support of CHP and traffic incidents and weather and snow removal. So we're here for you often enough, and hopefully today I'll give you a chance to ask any questions of myself, as well as I have with me our vendor Bajwa, my Deputy District Director of Traffic Operations. Give our vendor a moment to give us an update here also. And then with us tonight is Woody Singh, is our local project manager and has family here in Riverbank, is very proud to be working closely with city staff on projects as well. My first handout was my business card. You can reach me on my cell phone or at danmcElhaney@dot.ca.gov and Caltrans District 10 if you search on the internet. We have public affairs officers available reviewing Caltrans service requests. If you'd like to reach out to us online, if the public would like to reach out to us, you can call us at our Stockton office or email us at Caltrans Customer Service. And there's a link online for that. And we get a lot of interesting requests and advice, everything from potholes to trees down or property questions or flood questions on culverts and so forth. So I have a great team of public affairs officers ready to respond for the 8 counties. So don't hesitate to reach out to us for information. My second handout is the Stanislaus County projects maps. And our project management group put this together for us last year to try to outline, we have over or nearly 40 different projects happening that are state funded, is labeled as SHOP, or or county regional shares STIP funded in green, and we have some minor projects under 300,000 and highway maintenance projects and some local projects that we're providing local assistance support of cities and the county. And attached to that map, which does show all 37 locations, is 3 different pages listing the projects in order of their number on the map, and also giving you the county route, post mile, location, and a short description of the project name and work description and what phase they may be in, whether it's project initiation document recently signed, it's got some notes that clarify that, or if it's in the environmental phase or the design PS&E plan specs and estimates phase, or the construction phase, or recently closed out as a construction contract. There are 6 contracts listed as in closeout, which means they've been built and they're finishing the final documentation and filing. And I wanted to be sure to present, a transparent picture of the transportation investment here in the county for your reference. And my team's available if you'd like to meet and go through any specific projects in relation to, a lot of these are programmed or soon to be programmed and funded as we look ahead over the next 4 years. So I think that's a great reference for the council to have. And then overall, if there's opportunities for traffic operational concerns, safety related, signing, delineation, let me ask my Deputy District Director, Arvinder Bajwa, just to come up and explain a little bit of what his traffic group does in support of the city as well as for the county. Arvinder?
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Arvinder Bajwa. I'm a Deputy District Director of Traffic Operations in District 10 Stockton. And so my office, as Dan was mentioning, my division consists of almost 7 offices. Traffic safety, so we conduct traffic safety investigations for all kind of traffic-related matter, investigations for collisions and property damages and so forth. And then I have a Office of Freeway Highway Ops, so we conduct investigations for that too, and do IGR and traffic impact study approvals and review and approvals. And also I have traffic engineering, so we do, as Dan mentioned about the projects, we review the plans, specifications, and estimates. And then I have Office of Traffic Management Center. So Traffic Management Center for all 8 counties, we cover all the incidents, incident management, review, and on-time response with our maintenance crews so that we make sure that traffic's cleared on the highways and freeways. Then I have another electrical function, which is ITS groups. So we have all the ITS. You see all the CMSs on the highways and freeways, alerting drivers that what's ahead, congestion ahead, or slow traffic ahead, kind of notify the public. And then we have a signal ramp metering office that runs all the signal ramp metering across the district, all 8 counties. And last but not least, encroachment permit office, which reviews the encroachment permits across the district, and we always look forward to partner with local agencies, and I know we have a project we're going to be partnering with the city of Riverbank, so looking forward to work with you guys. So,
Thank you.
And overall, Caltrans, we have 12 district offices around the state. We're just about 20,000 employees in public service across all of our counties here in California. Our director for Caltrans statewide is Toksam Mashakan. Originally from the Tennessee DOT, is doing very well for us and providing great leadership. It reminds us to stay focused on safety, multimodal, modality, innovation, efficiencies, and overall public service and stakeholder engagement and communications extremely important to us at a statewide level as well. And I sit on the executive board for Caltrans, so if we have local policy and process issues, I get a chance to work with our statewide team as well out of Sacramento and across all the districts. Mayor, if I may have one more minute, I'll ask Woody Singh, our project manager, just come up and highlight the local construction project briefly. And again, thanks everybody for their patience on our local construction work that's happening.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to start out. I'm a local person too. I went to Modesto Valley High School, and I graduated from Modesto Junior College, and then went to university, became an engineer, and I work for Dan in Caltrans. And fortunate for me, I would say, I become a project manager for the project here in the city of Riverbank. And so I'm sure you're all aware of, you probably passed through once, at least once probably, on Highway 108, where 8th Street is. I'm a project manager for that, and just to capture the scope, folks will be aware of. Project scope is to improve the roadway. There's some issue with the erosion to the slope of roadway. And so the scope is to improve that by building the slab. There's a pile, and once we build a pile, we build a slab on the top to intercept any water runoff, so that way it prevents from any further erosion. Also strengthen the roadway itself. And more importantly, we focus really deep into safety. And so there used to be a guardrail there. The guardrail now is going to be replaced and going to be better. In terms of schedule, I know that originally there was some discussion about among the news and things like that, saying going to be finished by next year, but actually the project is planning to be completed by August of this year. So that's the main thing. Hopefully we open in time, depends on the weather allowed us, so that way folks can go through normally, and also business can go back to normal. Besides that, I'm open to any questions.
Just let you know, we spoke, about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, in that one of the projects that wasn't on our scope, but we're really appreciative, is that Claus Road 108. You're going to have a signal in the next, 3 or 4 years, around that time frame, which is really appreciative, especially with the way that traffic flows, because that is a dangerous intersection, even with the slowdown that you have. And I've also heard, did you sign the environmental for North County Corridor today?
It's on my desk, Mayor, for
Is
signature.
it signed yet?
Do you have any advice for me? Usually I try to get together with county management and do a signing ceremony photo. So I have read through it. It's a good document.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, the traffic work, and our vendors led the way, teaming with me, taking second looks at opportunities for intersection control evaluation, which is in regards to possible stop signs or signals or roundabouts, where maybe a few years back they were looked at in support of the community, and they were, just didn't seem to support it from a technical sense. And so we're glad to be able to get some of these signal projects moving along.
We're anxious because it's going to really help our industrial complex getting traffic, getting communication goods to 99.
I have a question. Terminal and Claritina, is that Caltrans or is that railroad? There's been a lot of problems.
No, that's county.
That's county? Okay, never mind. You're off the hook.
I would like to, come on. I would like to thank you. I was at the meeting that a few weeks ago the mayor talked about, and what other things you did had really made the traffic flow with the work you're doing on 8th Street over there be a lot better. I noticed you put signs outside of town, and I just don't see it backing up like it was prior to that, so thank you.
Yeah, that advanced signs really helped out.
Thank you. Well, and I always encourage the team, sometimes we need to stop and listen to the community because, you're driving the highways every day, and often enough the highway is Main Street. We're doing our best to respond very quickly. And I have a fantastic transportation planning and local assistance group. I mentioned maintenance and operations. Woody's part of our capital program, which we do the project management, but we also have an excellent highway design group, bridge design group, and they're very innovative, environmental staff, right-of-way and property management staff. So it's really an excellent group, including our construction management team. They want to respond. Our resident engineers, really appreciate the feedback on ongoing jobs too, or when I call too. Sometimes they find new ways to get things done. So thank you for those suggestions.
I have a question about the crosswalk on Atchison. Can you give us an update on that, please?
We studied, have we started right-of-way acquisition?
So we're in the process of hiring someone to purchase the property that we're going to need. There's slices of property. One thing I can share is that the director, as well as some of his folks from encroachment permits, jumped on a conference call with us about a week and a half ago and went through a preliminary set of comments to our plans, and gave us a little direction on some tweaks and changes that they'd like to see to try to make the project as compliant with Caltrans standards as is possible in an area like that. So that's now our engineers making those changes, and hopefully another round of comments, and maybe we'll be close to approvals. But
And that effort, that project's a priority for us. We had a chance to meet with mayor and council member and city manager, as well as we checked in. We did a check-in because when I saw the draft comments, our vendor and I went through them from staff, and they weren't quite ready to be sent to the city yet, because we want to narrow them down and focus on how best to advise on keeping the project moving forward. But we probably need the rest of March to finish that, technical review. What we do is when we get encroachment permits, we circulate them among, I think, 6 different technical groups, and so we get 6 different sets of comments, and so we're able at least to air out a few of those. Our vendor and I are both licensed civil engineers, so we tend to see some of the details, and we want to guide the city appropriately. And it's going to be a great project. We just want to keep it on track and not impact cost or schedule.
Thank you. Soon. That's what he said, soon. Okay, any other comments or questions? Sir, we really appreciate you coming on down here and taking a good look at Riverbank from our perspective and responding appropriately. You and your staff have remained very approachable and have remained very engaged with the city of Riverbank. Maybe because there's a Riverbankian on the staff, but anyway, we do appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it too, and I've been in a variety of meetings. Even our permit engineering staff grew up here in Riverbank, so
Very good.
they're very proud to announce that they're have family or grown up here in Riverbank, and there's no doubt that we support all of our cities and communities. But it's great to be invited, and thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council, for the opportunity to keep serving you. And don't hesitate to call and reach out if there's any other subjects, and we'll keep the current projects moving quickly. If you see something on the list and you have questions, feel free to call or email also.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Item 1.4, Riverbank Representative Update by Chad Homey of the Stanislaus County Fire Protection District Board of Directors.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, City Manager, Attorney, and City Clerk. I'm Chad Homey. I'm the city's designee on the Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District Board of Directors. I stand before you just to give you an update on a couple things that have been taking place over the last couple months. I want to, after I'm done, also answer any questions that you all may have. But I want to also stress that I'm available anytime if any of you want to give me a call about any questions, discuss things. I've had good discussion with a number of you. First item with the joining on the board there was the divvying out of the subcommittees. And basically I've been appointed to the Crossroads West subcommittee as well as an ad hoc censure committee. So I have been in a number of meetings on the Crossroads West project, which I'll be talking about a little bit about that in a minute. I know the other, kind of the two big, well, there's several big hotbeds for the city of Riverbank. The first one I would say is Crossroads West. Then the financial status of the department has been an ongoing. I'll be the first to say it. I mean, it's been an ongoing eyesore that needs to get addressed. And then the third one, and I would prioritize all these the same, is we obviously have to protect the citizens of Riverbank and provide them the best level of service that we're capable of providing them. So the first thing I want to update on is financially. I know most of you have heard, I'm sure it's been out there, that at one point the department was predicting that they would be about $925,000 in the hole this year, in the red. The chief has made some steps and some adjustments to try and mitigate that and reduce that. And as of earlier this week, they've got it down to about $545,000. So it is a step in the right direction. And there are some other things that I'm going to talk about that I do think are going to improve on that, and we're going to see some improvements. The Station 23, which is the station at the Fruit Yard, they remain closed while the budget items are being worked on. Obviously, that is a station that serves the district, the Stanislaus Consolidated Fire District, but that was the station that the chief made the tough decision to close, or to brown out, I should say, to save funding and until they can get the finances in order and try and get the budget worked out. The department has hired 6 new firefighters, which obviously cuts down on the overtime, and there were 9 vacancies, so they hired 6. As anything, I know the sheriff talked about the new classification with the sheriffs and the pay increase because retention is an issue. So of those 6 that were hired, we actually already lost one of them. However, the department was in a good situation in that we had several reserve firefighters, and one of them, the chief was able to get a position, so we literally had the one that left replaced within 2 weeks, and it's an individual that had already been backgrounded by the department, already been trained, so it wasn't like hiring somebody off the street that we have to put through a bunch of training to bring them up to speed. So the 6 additional firefighters, that should cut down on the overtime cost of at least 6 positions. The Crossroads West Subcommittee, we've had a number of meetings. I know it's on your closed session for tonight. I will say that we were meeting several times a week. I know the city manager has been in a number of the meetings, and I really appreciate working with the city. And I believe that between the 2 councils, I believe that an agreement is near to being reached, and it has been very good working with all the individuals. I can say that. Consolidated has also participated in a large communications grant from Cal OES to replace a bunch of outdated equipment in the county. They were operating on as well as all the fire agencies in the county were operating on analog technology, which most everything's moving to digital. So through Assemblyman Heath Flora, the county was awarded $12 million. I did a breakdown earlier today, just Stanislaus Consolidated for their mobile and portable radios. That's about $1.1 million, so it's a substantial amount of communications equipment. That equipment was all distributed, so they got all the new equipment. The next stage of that project is going to be installing the radios and the fire engines, which is the next stage of that project. And then there's also new technologies coming to Consolidated for station alerting, which should improve response times. No longer with the new station alerting, when a call comes out, it'll actually be a computer synthesized, generated from the CAD system. So they hit the button, it instantly alerts with the voice, pops it up on a screen at the station. The idea is to improve response times when every second counts. It's a good thing. Another thing I wanted to update on is every year Consolidated meets with CAL FIRE. It's kind of a preseason thing. We discuss what's going on in the Consolidated department as well as CAL FIRE because there's a lot of land that butts each other's responsibilities. For Consolidated, now without the Oakdales, that land is primarily in the LaGrange, the southeast end of the county, but it impacts Consolidated significantly. So there is a preseason meeting there. Also, on the communication system, something that does benefit the city of Riverbank is, as part of that $12 million from Assemblyman Flora, we're actually building 4 additional radio tower sites through the county, and the county operates on a trunked countywide system, so that'll actually benefit Riverbank Police Services, the sheriffs. It'll benefit every agency in the county that's on that, so that's another improvement that we'll see. Where you would see that is one of the sites that's been identified is here in Riverbank for one of the towers. And an example I will give is it's not being enforced by many, but there is NFPA 72, which is a code that's come into effect that basically requires, for public safety purposes, any building that's commercial has to have the same in-building radio penetration that it is outside. You go into a brick constructed building, you lose a substantial amount of your radio coverage. And the example I would give is Patterson has the Amazon and Restoration Hardware, and those buildings have their own in-building repeater systems that the owners of the buildings are actually responsible for. And I can tell you, like, Restoration Hardware was like $700,000 they had to pay for. So with the additional radio site in Riverbank, that should significantly cut down on anything that would be impacted by NFPA 72, because rather than having a far out tower, it'll be hitting something here in Riverbank. So I see that as a large benefit. And the area that I would see that really would be impacted by NFPA 72 would be the old ammo plant. That the construction there, and if you're breaking a site within, say, 2 to 3 miles of it, coverage would drastically be improved. And that is all the notes and kind of the bullet points I had. But I will open up for any questions that any of you have.
Any questions?
No questions, but I want to say thank you. It's very informative, and this is exactly what we needed, so thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate each and every one of you, and I know you, this was kind of my first delve into any sort of a political group, I guess I would call it. And I will say that I recognize the challenges that all of you are faced with, and I appreciate every single one of you. I think that public perception, I don't know that people really realize what it takes to make something happen. So I'm very grateful for all of you as well.
We appreciate your efforts and help moving Consolidated and Riverbank together.
Yep. So thank you. Thanks.
Any predictions from CAL FIRE on the area around Riverbank on wildfires?
I will be attending that meeting.
Okay.
They do provide a preseason lookout that is a forecast that'll show the moisture, show what they anticipate for fire, that sort of stuff, and I'll forward it to the council when that report comes out. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Item 2. That was a long item 1. Public comment. No action can be taken. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we go to the consent calendar, consistent of item 3A, waive readings. Item 3B, approval of February 25th, 2020, City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board minutes. Item 3C, award bid for the 8th Street Overlay Project to George Reed, Inc., and authorize execution of future change orders. Are there anyone wishing to pull any items? Seeing no public, bring back here for any recommendations.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent calendar as stated.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on the consent calendar.
Council Authority members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5.1, first reading and introduction by title only of a proposed ordinance approving a development agreement number 02-0219 for the River Run Subdivision Residential Project, APN 062-021-008.
Thank you, Mayor. This is sort of a resuscitation of a subdivision that has been around for a while. And we're actually pretty excited about it because Carrie Pope, the project lead, is here this evening, and we are now maybe to a time where you would see it get built. And so Donna's going to step you through a few little changes, but it's not all that different from what was originally approved. So take it away, Donna.
Good evening. I'm excited about the new clicker.
It's the little things that get you excited.
It is. You know my track record with these things. Okay, so this is Development Agreement 02-2019 for the River Run subdivision. The project consists of a development agreement to extend the life of approved tentative map 02-2016 River Run. Oh, there we go. So this is the project's location. As you can see, excuse me, it's on Central in California, and it's directly east of the high school site. Here's an existing view of the aerial with the map transposed on top of it. Here's the actual tentative map itself. It's 51 lots on 9.1 acres and a dual-use basin park there at the bottom. One thing that is a point that we had worked long and hard on with the developer and the property owner and OID is on the bottom there is California Avenue, and there were some flooding problems there at California and Central, and they have worked long and hard on getting those undergrounded in pipes and replacing crushed pipes, and so we think it's really going to help this project a lot. So project information, it is zoned low density, which allows for 1 to 8 units per net acre. And for those that don't know, a net acre is you're removing the streets and all the public lots from that total. And the current zoning is planned development. So the reason why the rezone was approved on this planned development is that, well, first of all, there's a chart right here, and it shows the low-density zoning standards and the proposed PD standards. And there are 3 items that have asterisks, and that's how the PD standards differ from the R1 standards. And what this means is, since it's a PD, staff will be working with the developer to provide some amenities to the people who live in this subdivision. The lots, instead of 6,000 square feet, will be a little above 5,000. And so to kind of offset that, then maybe there will be, picnic tables and grills around the top of the park. Or they might offer to do a concrete sign, or enhanced landscaping for each item that they differ. And there are 3 items in which they differ from the R1 standards. This project was deemed to be consistent with the general plan. There were quite a few different policies with which it is consistent, but I just picked out a couple to discuss quickly here. Policy Design 2.1, that's where the city requires visually attractive streetscapes with trees and sidewalks and other amenities on both sides of streets. The Conservation Policy, where all approved projects, plans, and subdivisions provide for the collection and treatment and transportation of stormwater. It does comply with those standards that we have. And this policy as well, the city will encourage more compact development to achieve a more efficient use of resources. Now there was a set of design guidelines that were adopted with the general plan amendment, the rezone, and the tentative map back in 2017. They didn't have the specifics for the architecture yet, so this is just some example architecture. But the developer who buys this project will have to conform with those design guidelines that have been adopted. And So you can expect to see some architecture similar to this, some one-story units possibly. And then this shot just kind of shows what your streetscape will look like if you were going to go for a walk in the evening. As far as the environmental goes, there was a mitigated negative declaration adopted for this project, and all of the mitigation measures and all the conditions of map approval that were originally put on this map will remain in effect. The development agreement does not change that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
This project is within the city limits, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because I know it's bordering right on the outskirts of it.
There's a parcel or two past that yet, but yeah, it is very close on the east side.
And the other big item, Swainson Hawk, are we mitigating that animal?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, that's the only ones I had. Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, right? I open it for public comment.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Kerry Pope. I'm just here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the project.
Kerry, I've read your report, or the staff report. It looks like it's extremely well put together. The multi-use park that you have for your drainage, and that looks well, that is acceptable. I think we've been discussing that for the last year. And when is the tentative schedule to break ground?
We've got a couple, one of the things that's been a challenge in this business, and not to throw PG&E under the bus, but at this particular point, but it's that's really weighing on schedules right now. And so it really depends on when we can get them on board. Most of our working drawings are done as far as the actual development, streets, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, that type of thing. One of the other things that's been a challenge has been the drainage. And Donna and the city engineer has been very helpful in helping us trying to figure that out. Because it hasn't been an easy one, and it really hasn't been one that I think is the ultimate. There had to be some compromises taking place there, but we feel like that we did get it solved. That area does have a tendency to flood, and so we are going to be correcting some of the things out there that cause it to flood. At the Planning Commission meeting, I stated the same thing, and I'll say it here publicly, is that, OID has really got to come to the table to help manage their clients with their water. That's part of the problem. It's not just nature. It's people not managing their irrigation water, and it's tailwater that we're ending up with part of the problem. So we've done as much as we can at this point, and now it's it's going to be up to them to help as well. So, and we'll also assist with what we've done out there with the overall problem out there of the east side drainage issue whenever that comes to play with the city as well.
OID, I thought they were cooperating.
They have, and I think that once we see the irrigation season really open up, I think that will be the telltale. We haven't seen that yet, so hopefully they've really informed their customers to really manage the water a little bit better, and I think that'll help a lot.
Okay.
And that was the only issue I had too, was the OID flooding. So thank you again for meeting with me to give me the history and all that, so I can better understand it. So thank you for clarifying that with me.
Pleasure.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? I close public hearing, bring it back to the council.
I'll make a motion, we approve item 5.1.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve item 5.1 and a second.
Councilmembers Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
and the second reading is next 24th.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.2, LRA item, a resolution approving the Local Redevelopment Authority fiscal year 2019 to 2020 mid-year budget amendments.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa Holdaway, who typically gives this report, is out ill, and so Marisol is subbing in for her. But this is going to be brief. There's really not a lot to discuss with regard to this budget that we haven't already talked about, but there are a few little tweaks and changes that we're recommending this evening.
So some of the changes that we are recommending to the LRA budget will result in the LRA being in a structural deficit at the end of the fiscal year. We know that there are some items in motion that we hope will mitigate that in the upcoming fiscal year, and that should be coming shortly to the City Council. So in terms of revenue changes, we did get an extension to our Office of Economic Adjustment, or OEA, grant, which pays for administration. So that includes salaries, legal, some of the administration office-wise that we pay for. We do have a reduction in rent due to the loss of a major tenant. We have been able to replace that tenant, but unfortunately, there was a loss of revenue during the time between them leaving and the replacement. And also, we have not been able to sell some of the personal property that we have bills of sales for from the Army due to some discussions, ongoing discussions with EPA regarding how we're going to mitigate some of the environmental issues with that personal property. In terms of expenditures, we now have our interim LRA director who is out there working and assisting Melissa in issues that are ongoing at the LRA. And so we have added those costs within the budget. IT support and equipment that's necessary to make sure that staff is able to access all of their items, which they were having difficulty in the past. Increase in some preventative maintenance. We had assumed that the master development agreement would have been in place by now, and so at the beginning of the year we decreased that budget. With those discussions still ongoing, we went ahead and included the preventative maintenance budget to 100%. And then repair budgets that were reduced in order to mitigate some of that deficit that we are anticipating. So revenue-wise, we're reducing a total of $360,000. And expenditure-wise, it's a decrease of $37,000. So overall, while we were anticipating a structural surplus at the end of the fiscal year, as we mentioned, those revenue changes that occurred, and then some of the increases in costs, we will be looking at a structural deficit of about $103,000. And I'm available for any questions. Michael Rydell, who's the interim LRA director, is also available for questions.
So just for clarification, the sale, the personal property, that's referring to the presser, correct?
That's correct, yes. So once we receive some guidance from EPA on how to remediate those items, we'll be able to take care of them and hopefully get them sold.
And where are we on the US EPA's comments? Do they have the same deadline, correct?
Yes. None received. Thus
Have
far.
we spoken with Carmen?
Yes. Michael actually had a call with her. Oh, there he is. Michael had a call with her, what, last week, Mike?
Actually had one with her today.
All right.
And so we are actually having technical calls every 2 weeks now to try to keep this thing moving and addressing the issues that EPA and she has. So she's actually, let me be nice. She's middle of the road right now, seemed to be helpful at this point. So.
Because I will be back at US EPA on the 3rd of April and either praising Region 9 or asking for assistance with Region 9.
Okay, so I'll talk to you just before you go, let you know.
Thank you. The other thing too is, are we having any payment issues with the Army?
Every year they reduce by some small percentage our caretaker allowance, is I think what they call it. And we've found that it's not productive to fight them about that because A, it's not a huge amount of money in the scope of the $3 million LRA budget, but B, the Army's perspective is the longer that we hold on to the property and have the opportunity to lease out different area, the less we should need their money to do the basic things. We disagree with that a lot, and we've explained that to the Army reps, and the decision is the decision, is essentially what we've been told. But
Oh, that hurts. Can we talk with the Army while I'm back there?
let's talk about it after.
I guess that's a no. Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any questions for Maricela? Any more? Okay, this is a public hearing. I open it for public comment. Do I have public comment? I see no public comment. I close the public comment, bring it back for consideration.
I make a motion we approve item 5.2.
I second.
We have a motion to approve item 5.2 and a second.
Authority members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Chair Uribe,
Yes.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes,
That would be Vice Chair Uribe.
I got that. The vice was silent. I thought maybe there was a coup. It was passed 5-0.
Yes.
Item 6.1, Stanislaus County Urban County Fiscal Years 2020 to 2025 Consolidated Plan FY 2020 through 21 Annual Action Plan and Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice Community Meeting. Request to table to April 14th, 2020.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, we, the City of Riverbank, have gotten all of our ducks in a row, which you approved last meeting with regard to the list of projects that we'd like to use our allocation from the consortium on, which goes into a master list that the county submits to the state. And so anyway, we were ready to move forward, and we noticed this public hearing to sort of bookend this whole thing, and the county asked us that to delay it because they have not yet completed their draft, and so we're requesting you table this until the 14th. But we'll still make the deadlines.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any public comment on this? Is there any council comment on this? Okay, so we have recommendation to table item 6.1 until April 14th.
I'll make a motion, we table item 6.1.
I second.
Have a motion and a second to table item 6.1 until the 14th of April.
Council members Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fossey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes
Item
5-0.
6, thank you. Item 6.2, Regional Recycled Water Project and the Wastewater Treatment Plant Master Planning Studies Planning Grant Authorization to Award.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, as council knows, this is a project that has been discussed for many years here at the City of Riverbank, and for a variety of reasons, there was not funding to move forward with the master planning process until in August of 2016, my notes are messed up here, the city applied for and got into the line essentially for a grant that the Regional Water Board has that allows for studies of recycled water and market rate sale of that water type projects. Essentially taking your what a lot of the larger scale plants in the county do and many cases they treat the water to a very high standard, and in some cases they're able to sell it off for commercial use. It also focuses on the consolidation of sewer facilities with other communities, hopefully joining in, so that perhaps there's some cost savings. So we were awarded the grant. Thank you to Mayor O'Brien, because it took the collective effort of him actually having to go to Sacramento at one point, and as well as a number of phone calls to various people at the Regional Water Board to actually just send us the grant paperwork so we could sign it. Literally months of that. Finally, we received it. We went ahead and we already had the scope prepared. We initially issued an RFP on the project. We found that there was an issue because this grant for every dollar we spend, we have a dollar matched by the state. Council had already approved an appropriation of $157,000 back when we were initially notified that we received the grant. And so the best bang for our buck here is that the city spend up to the grant maximum, so we receive the maximum amount of dollars and get the most robust study possible. So what we did was we went back out to the firms we had originally spoke to. We did a request for qualifications instead. We received one back from KSN, who also did a lot of the prep work on this, have been involved in various capacities in this project for over 5 years. They have significant knowledge and expertise in this field. And our recommendation is to award the study to them. What the study will do, and it's located in your staff reports on pages 1 and 2, is one component of it will be recycled water production, which will evaluate different ways that we can treat the water, how the process will work, and we'll come up with essentially a master plan of an upgraded plant. And the second component of it will look at how we can use that water when treated in various capacities. There are, obviously concepts of discharging that water to the river. There are concepts of selling that water as SSJID. We've had some of those conversations. And essentially what this will create is a master plan that gives us a roadmap of how we're to get this project done. It's weird timing because we were notified, Michael was notified about 3 weeks ago now. We got a phone call we really didn't want to receive from the state. And essentially the state said, look, we're going to come do an inspection of your plant. And Michael's been in the business for a very long time, and he knew to ask the question, which is, are we probably going to have our permit opened? And the answer was yes. We have not received that yet. There's a process that you have to go through, but it from what I hear from Michael, is essentially a given that will occur. So this actually puts us in a uniquely positive position, because were we not to be in this position to move forward with this master plan, we'd be starting from scratch, essentially, and having to invest a lot of our own utility money to start this process or apply for grants, and we'd be years behind. Michael's going to share with you briefly a little bit about how the WDR process works when you have it opened, and then, beyond that, the financial impact to the city is $159,540. Council's already appropriated that money out of the wastewater O&M fund, which has a very healthy balance currently of $2.8 million, and we will kick off the study immediately after award. Go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. So as Sean alluded to, I did receive a phone call from Guy Childs. He's the resident engineer for the State Water Board, Regional Water Quality Control Board, for our treatment plant. It was a heads up. I've known Guy for years. He's probably one of the few people that has the word reasonable in his vocabulary when you're dealing with a regulatory individual. So he's very good at what he does. He let me know as a heads up when he came out he would do the inspection. But after the inspection, what was probably going to occur is that we're not meeting our permit requirements as far as groundwater is concerned, which we all knew was the case. That's the reason why we've been monitoring the groundwater for such a long period of time. But he did let us know that was going, and what typically will occur is that we'll probably get our report back from his inspection. With that report, we'll get probably what's called a 13267 letter, which will state that we're out of compliance and that they're going to come in and take a look at our report of waste discharge or our permit on our treatment plant, which I believe is 1995. And they are not just doing us. I also heard Ceres has actually got started before us, and there's a couple others that's coming after us in the area. So as Sean alluded to, this really is kind of really good timing for us if there is such a thing when you get into this requirement, because we are starting the process of working off of, and one of the things that I know he keeps saying grants, these are actually 2 grants. There's one recycled, one plant for the deal. So it actually works out to our advantage at that point in time. But, and this is a really big but when you take a look at this, is going to be the cost associated with how we're going to meet what they decide to give us. So basically what's going to happen is they're going to come in, they're going to do that. They're going to give us a notice of violation. We can probably pretty much expect that. And in this case, it's a good thing. We could very well end up in a cease and desist order, and they'll do that a lot of times because the way the SRF funds are set up, or the money that's available to take care of this, the worst actor you are per se, the higher you move up on the list in order to get help or get funding to be able to correct these things. And so it's not, because it's how they do things, right? It's their regulatory requirements that they're required to do, but it's also helps us move along and helps us obtain some funding from the state when we get to that aspect of it. When you're talking dollars here, you know, we're talking, you know, 20, 30 minimum.
57 million.
I said minimum. 20, 30 million minimum, like you were saying, 50, 70, somewhere in Dill. So when the mayor goes back to talk to U.S. Agricultural Department, U.S. Ag Department, with his hat in hand, maybe we can get them to write us a big fat check. Right?
That's the intent.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's a perfect time.
So the process, it's worrisome, but at anybody that owns and operates a pond system type treatment like we have is eventually going to receive this. The State Water Board has said they're trying to phase out all of these kinds of treatment processes for something more high tech, essentially, that treats the water to a higher standard. And so we just will have to make it a priority over the next number of years to kind of slowly work towards it. And like Michael said, the best part about it is that once you receive these orders, you sort of get moved up the priority chain with regard to grant and loan funding. So our goal will be to try to get as much of that money paid for through grants as we can, so that there's as minimal an impact to the utility as possible, but there will be some for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things too that you may already be aware of too, but I've also told Sean that I'm not gonna go out of here until we got this on the right path. I'm not gonna bail and leave Darren and Sean holding the bag, so to speak, with this permit. So once I see that the state, we're going in the direction we need to go and the state is complying with or working with this type thing, then I'll go ahead and retire.
I have a question. Has the state given out any goals that by such and such a year they want to see all of the ponds done away with and up, with new standards? Have they given a goal?
This has been, no. The short answer is no. This has been ongoing for probably a good 20 years. I've been in the field for 36, 37, and this is something that they've been talking about. We knew it was going to come eventually. We just didn't know when. One of the things that I can caveat with it, the reason why it hasn't happened sooner, is because that several years back, they were really behind in their MPDES permits, and these are federally backed permits through the EPA. And EPA basically told the state of California, get your act together, get them done, or we're going to take your funding. So obviously the state got their marching orders and went, so they concentrated on the MPDS permits, because at that time, they were telling us that they were gonna come after all of these small plants for the anti-degradation of the groundwater, which has always been kind of their mantra, so to speak. So, but yeah, no, it just depends on who you talk to up at the state about what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen, and, anything can change.
I'll just say,
That they went after some of the smaller, more severe violations. Grayson was one of them. So they were going after, slowly moving up the compliant food chain. So we're now in the process. Oakdale, they've hit, not completely like they've hitting us, but they're requiring their wastewater transfer main to be underground. They seriously are. That's going to cost them $5 million. And they're giving them a deadline. What we need to do is go back and start getting the funding from the US EPA, and then go back to Cal EPA and the Water Board and start getting grants from that, as well as very low interest loans.
Right, and that's one of the things when you caveat it, when we start becoming the so-called bad actor, that, like Shawna says, just pushes us up higher on the list. They rate you. You go from a D, which is the lowest, to an AA, which is the highest. So our goal is to become an AA, because that way we'll qualify for a lot better cracks at funding as far as grants and low interest loans.
And I won't be going back there alone. Our Stanislaus Housing Authority, Regional Housing Authority member is going to be with me, who has experience in wastewater for Grayson and some of the others, when I go talk to HUD and to EPA. I have a plan. It does. So anyway, this is fortuitous that we're where we are today.
Yes, sir.
Now, what we have to do is clearly look at how do we support the wastewater treatment plant conversion with new construction and current capital improvement project. And it has to be multi-generational that we spread load this, because you can't put it all on us up here. We need Sean's babies and. Pardon?
Well,
I thought you was gonna bring a check back with you.
Oh, I'm going to try.
Well, so that's a great point. Couple things. We are in the process of Riverbank has never had a we've had a sewer connection fee, but it's primarily for the collection system. Like, so when you build a home, you pay a fee into the sewer fund, but it pays for the main lines and the transfer lifts and the way, basically getting the sewer to the plant. We're going to have another fee that will apply to Crossroads West and ideally to the East Side projects too. That will be for treatment, and it will, that money we're going to recommend be sort of set aside into an account that waits to fund or help fund the plant upgrade when it does occur. But you're right, Mayor. It's going to have to be many pots of money, multi-generational. It's a huge project. It's going to take a long time. So this is just the beginning. And we'll be bringing when some preliminaries are done on this study, we'll be bringing those forward and workshopping them through council so we can get your direction on those.
And we're not going to build it all in one day. We can do steps such as a digester or complete phase one of your recycling, and then to go to step 2 of your recycling, or the secondary treatment, and then.
Yeah, we'll be able, you can certainly phase it however you see fit, right? Once we figure out what we're gonna do.
And try getting some of our other cohorts on that side of the river, involved with it. That would be Oakdale and Escalon. So that's good news.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments, question? Any from the public? Okay. Now we have to do the motion for the awarding of the contract.
I move that we.
Cindy was speaking. Go ahead.
Thank you. I move that we approve item 6.2.
Now it's your turn.
I second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second on item 6.2.
Council members Martinez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Fosse,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Uribe,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Staff comments.
No additional updates tonight.
Councilmember Fosse.
I have no comments tonight.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
Oh, I just want to talk about International Women's Day because it was celebrated on March the 8th, and this day helps nations worldwide eliminate discrimination against women. It also focuses on helping women gain full and equal participation in global development. So I'd like to recognize the women who have made a difference in our lives yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell.
No comment tonight.
Vice Mayor.
The Stanislaus Homeless Alliance next meeting will be March 11th at 5:30 p.m. at 1010 10th Street at the basement chambers. It is open to the public, and I welcome everybody to join.
Is any decisions going to be made?
We will see.
I just have, the wastewater treatment plant was covered. I would like plans to start developing the resolution for the urban growth boundary to be approved in May, so it gets before the registrar of voters in June. When is our cutoff date on that?
I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
Okay, I think it's mid-June, so
I think it has to go to the board by May, so council has to approve it sometime prior to that.
Right.
And then if the board approves it, then it goes to the registrar after that. I
And
believe
if
that's
the
the
board
process.
doesn't approve it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's really a practice of that, but could happen, I guess.
Okay. All right. Other than that, that's all I have. I want to thank everyone for their efforts, and then we'll go into closed session consistent of item 8.1, conference with legal counsel existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 Alpha, name of case Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District versus the City of Riverbank and DOES 1-20. Stanislaus County Superior Court case, numbers Charlie Victor 19004402. And if there's anyone wishing to comment on, before we go to closed session, you have up to 5 minutes to talk on this item. Seeing none, we adjourn to closed session. Thank you very much, Chad. I'm in the middle of a city council meeting.
Good, how are you? I'm Chad. Nice to meet you.
Report from closed section, item 9.1. Report from closed session on item 8.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District versus the City of Riverbank and DOES 1-20. Direction has been provided to staff. With that, this meeting is now adjourned. Our next regular council meeting will be March 24th at 6 p.m.